Hello everybody. I'm gonna be doing a holiday painting today. It's like a rainbow aurora sky with a little pine forest. Alright, so essentially I have the rainbow on my plate. You can actually do this whole painting with red, yellow, blue, black, and white, because with red, yellow, and blue, you can mix any color you want. But if you do have those in-between colors like yellow, or excuse me, green and orange, you can pretty much mix yellow and blue to make green, yellow and red to make orange, and so forth. We're actually going to start with the sky, so I'm going to go grab my brush. And I'm working on in a sketchbook with paper that's ready for acrylic paint. I believe this is like 9 by 12 as far as my size goes. Just cleaning off my brush. And I'm going to start with yellow, right in the middle. Just mixing a little bit of white. Then I'm going to move into orange. And then red. So I'm just working from light to dark and starting with my warm tones. Mix a little bit of yellow and orange with my red. Good enough to me. I'm going to wash my brush after this because I'm going to move into our cool colors and earth tones. Just mix it in near a cup of water. Wipe off that extra paint and water. And I'm going to go back into yellow. Some white. And now green. Then gradually add a little bit of blue. This is a pretty dark blue, so I'm going to mix it with the green to make a teal turquoise kind of color. Just mixing those all together. Now I'm just using blue on its own. Mix a little bit of red with blue to make a like a magenta, purplish wine color. So we have the rainbow. I'm gonna switch over to a skinnier brush now, more of a fine detail brush here. I'm gonna start to add some of the trees in the far back. So I'm going to start with a darker shade of green, so I'm just mixing some blue with my light green to make it darker. I'm just going to start with some vertical lines. And I'm going to get smaller and smaller as I get closer to the middle. Just kind of let the brush do whatever it does. If you don't get a solid brush stroke, that's okay. As I get closer to the red, I'm going to use more of a pure blue and less green. Let me do a couple of taller trees here. I'm going to make one of them a little more detailed, and I'm going to do a pine tree. And I'm just going to start at the top and make some short brush strokes going left to right. And then as I get closer to the bottom, I'm going to get a little bit wider. Just a little bit. Maybe I'll do one more on the right side. Actually, I'm going to make this one more of a magenta, so I'm mixing some red with that blue. I'll let those trees dry for a bit, and I'll highlight them later. Let's maybe do one more in the middle. There we are. So I'm gonna move into the foreground and just lay on some snow. I'm gonna switch back over to my larger brush. Maybe I'll go to a medium brush. And it's majority gonna be white paint. So I might as well just put the white paint right on the book here. I'm just going to spread out this white paint first. A little more. And now that I have a layer of white, I'm just going to grab the tiniest bit of blue and just dab it all over. And since I already have this white layer on there that's still wet, I can just blend it right in. And I'm doing a slight curve, adding a slight curve to my brush stroke, so it's a really slight smile type of shape. And I'm going to go all the way up to the horizon. A little bit more white. And if some of the paint is still wet, that's okay, and it picks it up. It kind of makes it look like a reflection on the snow. Picking up some of these purples here. I'm going to actually grab some red and have some highlights, and like lavender colors in the snow here. Beautiful. Okay, so now that we have the base of our snow here, we have a little piece of land for some more trees to live on. I'm gonna move into some larger trees in the foreground. And I'm going to keep using this brush. I like this brush. The more you work with your paints and brushes, the more comfortable and versatile you'll get, and figure out what paint brushes might work for you, what doesn't. That's all. That all comes with the process. So I'm going to take this dark blue and make a line going straight down on the right side of my piece here. And the same way we made those trees in the far back, I'm going to do the same thing, but just a little bit bigger now. Just short brush strokes left to right. And it's better to start smaller. You can always make your tree larger. Once you do a large brush stroke, it's harder to fix that. But you can always make your tree bigger. So just kind of zigzags left to right. Left to right, left to right. And we have our base for another tree. Now I'm going to make our main tree that's closest to us, and I'm actually going to use black for that. So I'm dipping right into the black paint starting roughly at the same height as this blue tree that we just did, but I'm coming lower and closer to the bottom of the page or the canvas, so it is still bigger, but the height is almost the same. Again, just zigzagging left to right. And I'm actually going to highlight this black one right away, because when I go into white, we're just going to make a different shade of gray each time we add the white on top of the black. So we're going to start to add on the snow that maybe landed on this tree and didn't fall off, or it's just kind of hanging out, waiting to melt. For now, just relaxing on these leaves, enjoying the cold. Alright, and I think I'm gonna let that main tree dry for a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and wash my brush now. And I think I'll pull out my detail brush and start to do some of the highlights on these background trees. Alright, so I'm going straight into white now. Just white paint. And I'm going to highlight this blue tree here. Again, just zigzagging left to right. Just glopping the paint right on top. A little bit at a time. Going back and forth between my paint. There we are. And let's move back to these farther trees. And I just mixed a little bit of white with some red. I already had blue on my brush, so now I'm making almost like a lavender blue. Just like that. We have a little snowy tree. I actually think I want to make this blue tree a little bit darker at the bottom, so I'm going to mix some blue with a tiny bit of black and just add a couple more shadows. There we go. I like that better. Let's give it a little more contrast. So I'm going to add some undertones to this main tree and mix a little bit of green on top of that black. Just a little bit, not too much. And I'm just going in between the white and black and mostly painting on top of the black part of the tree. Nothing too detailed. Just giving a hint of green. Kind of give that illusion of depth. Alright, so I found this gold paint I didn't know I had. I think this would be good for some garland. So I'm just going to dip straight into this bottle and get some gold paint on my brush and do some zigzags. And I'm really laying on this gold thick. And actually, since I'm in gold, I'm going to make a star at the top of the tree with this gold. This will just be the first layer for that star. I'm going to start adding some ornaments to the tree, and I'm just going to use the wood part of this brush to dip into my paint and add some little orbs and ornaments. Let me go into yellow. Green. Let's do some pink. I'll leave it at that for now. I'm going to go back into some black. And then I'm going to outline the star. Throw some little white highlights on the gold star. Alright, and so after we have our ornaments and highlights and trees in there, I think I'm going to put a little bit of shadow underneath these trees. And I'm just mixing blue and white together, making it a little darker shade of blue. I'm just going to add some shadow. And after you add those shadows in, final step would be to sign your name. Alright, and we're done. I do like how this came out. This is a fun little painting to do.